The fourth Matrix movie just premiered in theaters, and most people don't get it. This is not just a movie, this is a guide to resurrecting your higher self. So I'm gonna give you a choice. Either pretend like none of this happened, keep scrolling and see what the algorithm feeds you next, or follow me on this journey and see just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Peace and much love. Welcome to Learn With Us. I've broken down the lessons of this movie into 5 parts. First is that if you are stripped of your story, you are stripped of your power. Second is that you must find a seed of hope. You must have what it takes, the initial questions, so that you're curious enough to follow the white rabbit. Third, the wake up. This is when you really earnestly ask those questions and see where the rabbit takes you. Fourth, understanding the new matrix. This is understanding how the algorithms and the way that we are programmed in this society are blocking you and bringing your energy into certain places. This is all about energy control. And finally, if you put together all 4 of these steps, you are able to resurrect your higher self and choose to become who you know you are. So in this video, we're gonna go through each of these steps, describe how the movie shows it, and then describe how it might be showing up in your daily life. Let's begin. Stories. We all love them. We all live them. We all are them. For what are you besides the stories you tell about yourself and the stories that others tell about you? You see, stories have immense creative power. In fact, they're at the core of a lot of creation. Not only the creation of a book or something like that, but also the creation of a whole persona, a whole culture, a whole way of living. That's pretty nuts, isn't it? And this power can be used against you. And that is where the fourth Matrix movie begins. We find Neo having been told a story that the entire first trilogy of the Matrix, where he became the chosen one and saved the day, was actually all just a video game that he had made up in his mind and sold to children. This leaves Neo powerless, and it also leaves him in a place where he is giving off a different image to the world than what he truly is. You see, whenever he looks in a mirror, he sees himself as Neo, the chosen one. But anyone else who looks at him actually sees this old man who looks kind of like a crazy video game designer. Now in our life, the same things are happening. It might be on a more subtle level than, being plugged into a whole computer program and stuff. But we are constantly told things culturally, in our family, by our friends, through social media, about who we should be, how we should act, how we should look, what types of things we should be fulfilled by, and how we should live our lives. And the funny part is, when you start to hear all these stories and really pay attention to, okay, what are the advertisements telling me, and how should I feel about this, and how do I actually feel about this? You start to notice that the things you're told and the people who live up to a lot of those stories don't actually seem very fulfilled. And that's where you start asking questions. And slowly, you develop a seed of hope. In the original Matrix trilogy, there's one question that frees minds from the Matrix. The question is, what is the Matrix? Now, in this new movie, the fourth Matrix, Neo keeps that attitude, but rather than asking what is the Matrix, he creates something called a modal. This is just a mini version of old Matrix programming that he puts inside of a computer. What this does is allows the people who are now free and entering the Matrix to see that there is some sort of glitchiness going on that then leads them back to Neo. This modal is what I would call a seed of hope. It is the little experiments that we take when we start to realize, maybe there's more to all of this than we thought. In our own lives, it could be a simple question like, who am I? Or, what is all of this stuff around me? Is this solid table actually what I think it is? And once you start asking questions like that, it really preps your mind, body, and spirit to be opened up to something new. And that's exactly what happens to Neo when he is revealed the White Rabbit and... Wait. What? Excuse me 1 second. Okay, let's move on. The next part is waking up. Now this is when you start to follow signs, and the questions that you've been asking, they start to build into a new perception of reality. This can be a very confusing time, and is literally in the Matrix movie when Neo's world starts to fall apart. He starts to feel like he's going crazy, and in his office a whole battle breaks out, and then he's convinced that all of this is still only in his head. However, at this point, it is growing inside of him that maybe everything happening isn't just in his head. And it's really a scary time because that old way of perceiving the world is slowly crumbling. Now this may be happening in your life where you start to notice the people around you and the ways that people are living start to feel constricting to you. And you personally start to feel your own habits starting to break down, and you see new ways of being coming through, and the things that used to make you feel good don't necessarily do that anymore, and it is a very confusing time in one's journey. This is also when agents tend to appear. This is the whole idea of the character Agent Smith, where really Agent Smith has the true desire of wanting to be free as well, but is afraid of that fear and tries to capture that freedom and really keep it under control. If you are really observant and honest with yourself, you'll probably notice Agent Smith inside as well. Probably at times when you've looked at a friend who's maybe doing something that you wish you were able to do, acting more freely than you feel like you can at that moment, and for some reason, even though you should probably be happy for your friend for expressing such freedom, there's a part of you that becomes angry and controlling.
Mr. Anderson.
Smith? You look fly.
Thank you. Unfortunately, it's time for you to die.
Ah! Oh! Oh. What? Oh my. Anthony! Oh. Yo, Anthony, I just had the nuttiest dream, dude. I was filming this video for YouTube, and it was like a Matrix video where I was talking about the spiritual meaning of the new movie, and you were there, but you were Agent Smith, but you were like hipster and dripped out, and it was ridiculous. And
Yeah, that is really weird. Then why are you recording this then? What's the camera for?
what do you mean
It's nice to see you again, Mr. Anderson.
Uh-oh. Oh! 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 Where were we? Ah, yes. Part 4. Understanding the new Matrix. Energy control. See, in the Matrix movie, the 4th movie, the movie we're talking about this whole time, Neo ends up meeting the analyst. Now, the analyst is the new version of the architect. The architect was the person in the first trilogy that made the Matrix. Now, this is an interesting switch that they changed the name from architect to analyst. Because now we're talking all about data analytics. We're talking about algorithms. What are the things controlling your energy? So Neo is told by the analyst that, hey, we've learned that emotions give our machines a lot more power than ideas do. People don't care about rights and wrong ideas. They care about what feels right and wrong, what gets them really amped up. And that is why algorithms, the energy control, is all about the most, radical content that makes you really upset. So the analyst explains to Neo that the whole matrix that controls and keeps 99% of the population satisfied is just all about peak emotions of mostly fear, guilt, and doubt, because these keep people trapped. Now, once you understand that this is the analyst, this is what exists, you are starting to see into the matrix. If you have a phone, if you are walking through a storefront and you get to see the sale signs and understand what they're trying to do to your brain, if you are scrolling on TikTok and understand, hey, the people are using a certain strategy to make me feel a certain kind of way so that I watch a certain amount of time, and the algorithm is programming all of that to give me extreme emotional peaks, then you start to control your energy. And this goes back to the whole idea of asking questions and telling stories and creating a seed of hope, because you start to see that all of these programs of the algorithm that the analyst has created are actually the things that are programming your stories, your ideas of self, and that is when your freedom comes into play and leads to number 5, resurrecting your higher self. Now that you have seen the energy controllers, you can take a step back and go, wait a second, I have the same amount of power that these things controlling my energy have. And this is when you start to resurrect your higher self, because you are no longer focused on what are these things that have my control, but you can say, what are the things that feel amazing? What are the things that want to jump out of me? What does this consciousness want to explore? You start to ask, who am I? And not immediately put all the definitions you've been given before on top of that. Instead, you are now becoming free. And this is the part where you need to claim 100% responsibility over your life. If you listen to spiritual teachers that actually want to free you, you will hear most of them say you need to take full responsibility. You need to become the thing that you say you are. And that's what I like to call claiming your name, or resurrecting your higher self, because that is when the choice is in your hand. If you understand what all of these things are doing to you, then it's all about training a new identity, a new set of habits, a new way of life that actually is fulfilling to you, and you get to choose what it means to live fulfilling. I mean, the question if you actually choose it is the interesting thing, because if you think about it, there's also all the time just these feelings that come up out of you, almost as if there's something being channeled through you. You know, it's like, why do you like the things that you really like? Kind of a crazy question to ask, especially once you start deconstructing some of these things, when you see that these stories aren't me, but then there are still things that you are naturally drawn towards. Like for me, hip hop. I love hip hop, and it doesn't have to do with stories I'm told. When I hear hip hop, I just get amped up. And lots of other people, that happens when they listen to country music. We just have these natural pulls towards things, and that is where this idea of higher self comes in. Because what is this thing that somehow decides what we like or dislike, or what we're naturally drawn to? And then you enter a fun exchange between you and spirit, or you and the true you, your current ego structure, and what you are really drawn towards at your core. And the more and more you start to move away from this thing that you thought you were and control that energy, give it to the higher self. Higher self, higher should be in quotes there, because it's not, I don't actually know if it's higher or whatever, but it's just the thing that feels the most real, the thing that gives you experiences that make you go, hell yeah, I'm alive. That becomes your compass. And rather than focusing on all of these other things, you have now resurrected a part of you that had been completely shut down. In the Matrix movie, Trinity is the one who claims her name, claims her true self in this movie, because she is being pulled away by her husband and kids from the fake world, and goes, wait, stop playing with me. My name is Trinity. And in that moment, she calls that higher channeled self in and embodies it, and that is what gives her the power to then understand, see through the whole matrix, and fly, literally take off from the ground. And that comes to this last scene where Trinity and Neo are talking to the analyst, and the analyst goes, well, congratulations, you guys are free or whatever, but what now? Are you guys just gonna, paint the sky with rainbows? And they look back at him and go, honestly, painting the sky with rainbows sounds pretty good, but what we're really here to do is remind people the power that you have when you freed your mind, when you've resurrected your higher self. That's what it's all about, baby. So are you in?
Am I late for dinner, Mr. Anderson? Unless he reached his higher self, I gotta give you props.
Thanks, man.
No worries.
Smith, I really appreciate all the challenges you brought to my life. You've showed me a lot, brought me to my true self.
Don't feel too proud. This is only but a chapter in our story.